Hi, I'm Brooke Wagner, and I'm here with Dr. Brian Patrick to talk about his new book, The 10 Commandments of Propaganda. We're going to discuss the book in a series of short episodes, one for each commandment. Now I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Brian Patrick, the author of The 10 Commandments of Propaganda. Commandment number 5.
Commandment 5, cognitively penetrate and stick. Commandment 5 is related to a simple fact of existence. We live in a sea of noise. All day long, modern world, we are surrounded with nonsense. Television's blaring, idiots screaming, babies talking, whatever they do. There's a lot of competition. And at any given moment, your attention is being tugged in dozens, if not hundreds, of directions. Propagandist this is a challenge to the propagandist. How do you get inside somebody's head and get their attention? And in some ways, the same old tricks have always been used. Sometimes you just scream. You've already noticed that when the commercials on the television come on, they are much louder than the program content. Advertisers know this. You've got to scream. But sometimes it's sensible to whisper because it's different. People say, "What's he whispering about?" So you can novelty will often bring people in to get cognitive penetration. Sex, wholesomeness, attractive people. These are old values. The values do it. Some of these commandments in practice overlap somewhat. So you're always going to see overlap of commandments. But there are a lot of ways to cognitive penetration. The old standby. And even Adolf Hitler talked about this in Mein Kampf in his propaganda chapters, which is probably the only sensible chapter in the whole damn book. Repetition and simplicity. These are the standards of propaganda. You, dear audience member, you probably have 1,000 slogans drifting around in your head that you can recognize. Have it your way, the Pepsi generation, and you know these because they've been screamed in your ear ever since you were a child. And this is repetition and simplicity. Slogans work like this. Advertising slogans. 15 minutes you can save whatever. You know, I can't even see it. Apparently it doesn't work on me very well. But these kind of slogans are great. Even poetry, songs. I'll give you the oldest slogan I know of, which is actually a dirty poem. This is from a peasant rebellion in early English history. When Adam delved and Eve span, then who was the gentle man? And this is a dirty poem. It's about, it has double meanings. But the idea was for the peasants who were actually rising up and killing the nobility, say, this was an egalitarian argument. When Adam delved, they're talking about delving in the earth, but they're also talking about delving into Eve. And Eve span, well, that's the past tense of spinning, like with the loom or something, and a wheel. But it also means to spread and so forth. I told you it's obscene. When Adam delved and Eve span, who then was the gentleman? And the point is, there were no gentlemen in the beginning. If you were a Christian, a believer of that era, you would have believed that we were all created by God, and when we were thrown out of the Garden of Eden, we were cursed to work, live by the sweat of our brow. So where do all these nobility people come from who are living off our backs now? This is a very effective slogan. Okay, slogans work. They all work, and you recognize them. You know this instinctively. Last one, and there are others, but the last one I'm going to talk about under cognitively penetrating stick is the use of a peculiar one that I call Gnostic techniques, like spelled Gnostic, Gnostic. And a Gnostic technique takes advantage of a human propensity to think that the truth is hidden, or there's scarcity of resources. This is why people believe in conspiracy theories, and people believe in these conspiracy theories precisely because they're mysterious. They know that there's a big conspiracy up at the top, and there's it's rotten up at the top and in the core and so on. So people like to believe this. If you look at again, I'll give you a common example: the Nazi point of view of the Jews. This is a big conspiracy theory. But even nowadays, the Democrats believe the Republicans are all these rich people conspiring to keep them down, and the Republicans believe that the Democrats are a bunch of demagogues and people all conspiring to pull them down and so forth. These Gnostic techniques really work well. It's possible to excite interest in people just by making things seemingly hard to obtain or controversial. Generally, for example, when you see controversy in the news, for example, a new rap artist comes out with a song and it says, oh, we should kill cops and so on, and people start denouncing it. This is called public relations. The idea is you excite interest by saying, we should ban this, and people go, oh, we should ban this, this is interesting. I'll give you a personal tale. When I was about 13 or so, I read a lot, perhaps to excess, and I went to the local library, and I wanted a book by one Jack Kerouac called On the Road. And if you're familiar with this book, it's a long, we'll call it a diatribe if you want to. It's a long kind of fun piece on beatniks and traveling all over the place. And it was regarded as an adult book. So I went to the local library, I asked about it. The librarian said, well, you know, that's in the adult section. You really shouldn't have that. But I know you. You're a nice young man and so on. You seem to read a lot. So I'm going to let you have this book. Actually, she probably shouldn't have let me have that book. But I was so interested in that book, and I was so excited by the fact that people were denouncing it as controversial and it should be banned, that it affected me a lot more than it probably should have. Nowadays, I go back and read Jack Kerouac, and I agree with Truman Capote's comment, where Truman Capote, who was kind of catty, said, that's not writing, that's typing. And I'm kind of starting to fall in the Truman Capote line of thought. But I was so excited by this book just because I thought it was banned and hidden and should be inaccessible. People thought it was inaccessible. And a last example in this category, the Catholic Church, the Roman Catholic Church, used to print an index of prohibited books. And they discontinued this sometime in the late 60s. And the reason they stopped this is because they realized when they put a book on this list, it became a bestseller. So cognitively penetrate and stick, you can do this through novelty, repetition, simplicity, and you can also do it through this controversy and Gnostic techniques. Commandment 5, thank you.